Hello everybody, Shannon here. I wanted to come on and share my story with you. My son Joshua was born August 17th of 2001. A beautiful little boy. Made the cutest sounds, had the most beautiful smile, and unfortunately December 20th, 2001, I lost Joshua at the age of 4 months old. I was a very young mother. I was 22, and you know, this was, you never in a million years do you imagine that your child is going to die. I know that you can sympathize with that. I know that you feel that when I say that. And you don't just feel it because you hear it, you feel it because you physically hear it, or you physically feel it. You feel all the emotion that comes with the, how did this happen to me? So it was a Thursday morning, and my phone rang. It was 5:30 in the morning, and Joshua, I was going through a divorce at 22, mom of two. Daughter Karina was 3 years old at the time, and my phone rings at 5:30 in the morning, and it wakes me, and it is Joshua's father on the other end screaming that my son was dead. Had no idea what happened. I shot up out of bed and stayed on the phone. I heard the ambulance very vividly. I can remember the sirens as they pulled up to the house. And I listened as they tried to do CPR. I listened as they tried to bring him back. And I listened as they called his time of death. Joshua was a healthy baby. When he, before they took him to the coroner's office, the detective, the deputy coroner, got on the phone with me, and he told me that he had lost his 2-year-old son just a few years previous to Joshua dying, and he told me at that moment that he had a poem he wanted to share with me when I was ready. So he promised me at that moment that he was going to find out what happened to my son. So time goes on. Joshua's funeral, I don't remember much of, and I think that that's just my heart's way of, my mind's way of protecting my heart. I don't remember much of it, except for I know exactly what my 3-year-old daughter was wearing that day. Time went on. The autopsy was performed, of course, and autopsy results came back. I still have the autopsy in an envelope in a box that I have his belongings in, and it was undetermined. And I thought, well, how could this be? You promised me you were going to find out what happened to my son. It was undetermined. Pending homicide investigation. Joshua didn't have any fibers in his lungs of the blankets or any materials. The only thing that he had was slight petechia, which is broken blood vessels in the eyes, which is usually what happens with strangulation. But it wasn't consistent with any type of trauma. His airway was not collapsed. So at that point in time, they could not call it a homicide. There was not enough evidence for that. And so because there was no medical reason why he died, they would usually call it sudden infant death syndrome. But because there's certain characteristics that come with sudden infant death syndrome, with, you know, the higher percentage of children that die from SIDS, Joshua did not have those characteristics. So his death has always remained undetermined, which has always remained a constant reminder for me that I don't feel like any parent ever really has full closure, but I know that I never will. I know that I will never know what happened to my son. I know that there are things that I know in my heart or in my gut. And I do know that that story has changed a couple times from the people inside of that home over the years. But I choose to know, I just choose that if that was the case, you know, whatever the case may be, that's to be dealt with on the other side. I know that regardless, one day I'll be with my son again. And so here I am 19 years later, still grieving. In our intro video, I had stated that the 7 stages of grief, that I jump from 1 to 6 to 4 to 5, you know, whatever all the time, and I do. I have my good weeks, months, and then I have my bad days. And even though it's been 19 years, it doesn't matter. His birthdays still hurt. His death anniversary still hurts. I recently had a grandchild. And as happy as she made me, you know, she makes me, and the 2 children that I've had since Joshua passed away, their birth hurt. And so, you know, seeing boys, he would have graduated high school last year. So I went to the cemetery and I gave him graduation gifts because I know that he would have been there, and I know that that's something that he would have accomplished. So I try to celebrate all of Joshua's milestones because that's what helps me. I still keep him very much alive in our family and very much alive with my children. We have rituals where we get a fast food place that's in our area called Baker's, and we eat there with him every time we go to visit him. I keep him alive. I keep him alive because he lived. He was important. I had hopes and dreams for him. And although I didn't get to see those play out, I'm still very much his mom and very much celebrate his life. My biggest fear is that Joshua will be forgotten. So I make sure that he's not. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you and share my son. Sharing my son is not anything that brings me pain. It brings me joy, and it makes me proud. I hope that all of you are in that same spot, and if you're not, I really hope that you get there. Thank you.